They saw ICE agents right here along Wood at the intersection of Penn you see just behind me. That's when he says he posted an urgent community alert letting residents know that Wilkinsburg does not cooperate with ICE.
Well, it happened again. Another elected official, this time the mayor of Wilkinsburg, Pennsylvania, has decided to release some information about ICE, as in the description of officers and the description of what they drive in the area, to warn his citizens, what he's calling an urgent community alert, to warn citizens of ICE operations in the community. Now, here's a local report on the story.
Yeah, Kelly, he tells me that he received call after call yesterday from residents who say they saw ICE agents right here along Wood at the intersection of Penn you see just behind me. That's when he says he posted an urgent community alert letting residents know that Wilkinsburg does not cooperate with ICE.
Again, straight up, does not cooperate with ICE. Now, you are allowed to not cooperate with ICE. You just can't get in the way. And this is where we get into that gray area of giving descriptions and advising people what to say and not say.
We're just here for the people. I put out my number. I put out also the number for Casa San Jose because, you know, we all are here trying to live the same life. We breathe the same air, man. I look at it all as like a family, so we have to protect each other.
And contextually speaking, this story happened before the terror attack in Colorado. And now that we know that happened and the man was an illegal immigrant, I don't think the Trump administration is going to buy the argument we all breathe the same air. In the aspect of we all are humans, but legally speaking, the Trump administration is totally done with this rhetoric, especially cities who act like sanctuary cities or have sanctuary policies.
Wilkinsburg Mayor Dante Comins tells me he did not personally see ICE agents in Wilkinsburg, but he says the reports from the community were enough for him to post the alert online, along with guidance for anyone interacting with agents. Based on the number of comments under that post and reposts, we reached out to immigration attorney Joseph Patrick Murphy for legal advice for anyone who has contact with ICE.
But the big thing in these stops is don't run away. You may experience a strong urge.
Finally, somebody with common sense. Do not run away. We saw what happens when you try to run away from ICE. When you try to evade ICE, you're going to get caught. So we have a little bit of common sense in this story. And don't worry, we will look at the details of the post on Facebook from the mayor.
To try and drive away or get out of the car and run. This is, you're unlikely for that to work. What's most likely to happen is someone's going to get hurt. Physical arrest is an inherently kinetic matter. You versus a trained agent or agents armed, someone will get hurt, and it'll probably be you.
Murphy tells me while you are required to give your name and date of birth, you are not required to discuss your immigration status. In fact, he says if you do have a legal status in the U.S., he does in that case encourage you to let those agents know. So once again, he says you do not have to talk about your immigration status, but you do have to give your legal name.
AKA, or you could lie to immigration if you want. You don't gotta say anything, but you could lie. And you can see why we're getting into this weird area of potentially harboring illegal immigration, which, by the way, the mayor of Nashville, Tennessee is being accused of as well, with the same rhetoric. We'll get to that later in the video, because again, this is a common theme of elected officials crossing that line of harboring illegal immigrants, and now they are being investigated for it. However, let's look into the details of this Facebook post, and you guys can leave your comments down below how you feel about it. Now, one thing I will say about this mayor, he is active on his Facebook page. He is always posting about this most recent power outage. I'm glad the city, the power has been restored 3 hours ago as I make this video. So he's posting a lot with these urgent updates and stuff like that. Now, as far as this update right here, this is the meat and potatoes of the video. Urgent community alert. So it's urgent. ICE activity reported in Wilkinsburg area. We have confirmed reports that ICE agents are active in our community. Specifically, they've been seen around Penn Avenue and Wood Street in Wilkinsburg. And right here, they are reportedly in white Sprinter vans, silver Dodge Chargers, and gray Ford F-150s, with a minimum of 5 officers pulling people over and stopping individuals on the street. Then he says, let me be absolutely clear, Wilkinsburg does not cooperate with ICE. Our borough has a standing ordinance that protects all residents from discrimination no matter your immigration status. Nationality, race, religion, gender, or background. Now, he even puts his number out. If you want to call him, give him a call. Know your rights when encountering ICE. You do not have to speak with ICE without a lawyer present. You do not have to answer their questions. You do not have to identify yourself. You do not have to consent to a search. You can ask to see a signed warrant. You do not have to open your door unless they show you one. And by the way, Homeland Security, they also know their rights. They know they can operate within any public jurisdiction, whether it's a street, a courthouse hallway. This is why we have such a clash right now and why it's being perceived as an imminent threat that people are being plucked off the streets. This is not what's happening. What's happening is areas like Wilkinsburg, Pennsylvania, they're not used to ICE showing up on their streets. And now that illegal immigrants have been chilling on their streets, in their streets, we don't even know what their backgrounds are as far as maybe criminal activity or things like that. But it doesn't matter according to the mayor. All residents, good to go. This is why ICE has a problem with this situation and the Trump administration. But again, the reason why we have this appearance of a clash and we gotta watch out for ICE, they're coming after us, well, it's true. Now ICE is allowed to operate anywhere they want within their jurisdiction, a public roadway. So this is why now we have mayors like we see in Nashville, Tennessee, creating this dilemma of ICE, they're not part of our community, stay away from us, you're just disrupting our community, and this is why mayors are being investigated left and right. Now, we will get back to the mayor of Wilkinsburg, Pennsylvania, but here's what's happening with the mayor of Nashville, Tennessee. And let me tell you something right now, this investigation is not looking too good for the mayor, who's essentially being accused of the same thing, helping out illegal immigrants to the point where it's disrupting ICE operations, and you could be arrested, charged, and you can lose your position as the mayor because of it.
What we have is a woke mayor who's using his position to, foster trying to make Nashville a sanctuary city. And look, he wants to make Nashville the San Francisco in the South. Meanwhile, I want to make Nashville safe. And it's unfortunate that you have to have a member of Congress step in to defend the citizens of Nashville from a mayor who's gone wackadoodle and is literally trying to invade our city.
You talk about keeping your people safe. Here's a woman. Her name is Deborah Newitt. She lives in Brentwood, which, of course, is still under the mayor's purview here. Here she is talking about getting broken into by an illegal immigrant gang members. Watch.
We were lucky because when these men violently smashed their way into our home, our 15-year-old daughter was in the house, alone, upstairs in the bathtub.
And the people you hear chanting in the background are protesters to try and stop this congressman from doing an investigation to make sure the mayor is not harboring illegal immigrants, as a mother is telling her story where her house was broken into by gang members who were illegal immigrants, or are.
I can't even think about what might have happened if they had known she was there, or if she had accidentally encountered them while they were still in our house.
Does Mayor Freddie O'Connell care about this family, maybe the 15-year-old daughter in the house, Congressman?
Well, we've seen all over Nashville and kind of the surrounding communities, just recently, just a few days ago, there was a Chilean gang that was arrested, that they were breaking into homes in the same community into Brentwood. You had this young girl who was in the bathtub. Her father, I believe it was her father, that called and said, hey, there's someone breaking into the house. I can see them on the cameras. You need to hide right away. And so, we had under the previous administration, under the Biden administration, the invalid in chief, if you will, allowed our country to be invaded by illegal immigrants. And what I'm doing and members of the Homeland Judiciary Committee are doing are going to hold these folks accountable.
And again, the mayor of Nashville, Tennessee is being accused of using a donation fund, not being funded by taxpayer money, but is on a government website to help out immigrants, is what they're saying, or migrants. However, when you do an audit of the system, there's no way to track where the money is actually going. I'm going to try and keep tabs with that, so make sure you guys subscribe to my channel for more information on that story. But he's also being accused of putting out an order which makes cops tell him when they're working with ICE. However, the mayor was doxing ICE agents at the same time by putting the ICE agents' public information, their names, on his website. So there's a lot of issues going on in Nashville, too much to talk about right now, but let's actually go all the way to Massachusetts, where the entire state is operating as a sanctuary city, and ICE just performed massive deportation operations in the state of Massachusetts. Again, there's a common theme here: elected officials allowing for sanctuary policies to disrupt ICE operations.
From there for us. So, Alexis, you spoke to the acting ICE director. What was one of the biggest challenges that his team has faced?
Sandra, I thought he was just going to say, how dangerous it is when you go out into the streets of a city like this and try to get migrants who have committed crimes out and deport them. But he said it's that they had to do it entirely on its own, because where the raid happened is in Boston mostly. This is a sanctuary city, so local law enforcement didn't help them at all. These feds had to do it entirely on their own. Even if those cops do want to help the feds, they're not allowed to. And although the Boston area is a sanctuary city, they say the entire state is acting like one too. Watch.
Do you think that the state is operating like a sanctuary state at this point?
100%. And that's one of the frustrating things for us. And what I'd say for the governor's office is we've had individual law enforcement agencies and state agencies reach out and say, hey, we want to turn this individual over to you. They're wanted for murder in El Salvador. So or like the sex offenders you saw today, why would you not turn someone over that's been previously deported?
Elected officials. And by the way, the elected official in Worcester, Massachusetts, I don't know if you guys saw my video. You can go look that up. Atel Hajehai is her name, city councilwoman. She is from in Massachusetts, okay? So again, you have elected officials who've gotten away with literally touching and pushing and, getting in the way of DHS and ICE operations. So this is a common occurrence in Massachusetts.
To me, that just makes no sense.
So these raids leading to nearly 1,500 arrests, and ICE says nearly half of them are convicted criminals, like these two men from El Salvador. You can see them here. ICE says one was wanted for murder, kidnapping, and robbery, and the other, a convicted child rapist who, listen to this, was living next to a playground outside of Boston, according to police. So even
now, the question is, I wonder if any elected official is going to go down to El Salvador and sip on some margaritas with these guys.
And with all of those criminal arrests, protesters in this area are focusing on the arrest of a Massachusetts high school student. The Brazilian national detained over the weekend, leading to outrage like this, not just by the protesters, Sandra, but also the governor here, Maura Healey. ICE says, listen, this is an 18-year-old who was arrested for being in the country illegally. The main target was his dad, who police say was wanted for reckless driving.
Here is a dad who's still at large right now that knows ICE is looking for him, who brought his family here illegally and put his family into that position. Yet we are focused on an 18-year-old who is an adult who's here in the country illegally.
And ICE says they're not done yet, not just with Boston, but other sanctuary cities, too. The raids are going to continue. And, Sandra, they're trying to hit 3,000 arrests of criminal migrants every single day.
And that's a lot, because it used to be 1,000, but the Trump administration was hardly hitting that number. Some reports were like in the 500 to 800s. So, again, if the Trump administration wants these 3,000 deportations a day, they're going to have to go into areas like San Diego, where we're seeing protesters. They're going to have to go into California, sanctuary states, and sanctuary cities throughout the United States, like in Pennsylvania. Now, let's talk about the specifics of this post. Can this mayor be charged with doxing or anything like that? Upon evaluation, this post right here is not illegal. It's too generic, a little too general. However, if ICE starts operating a little more hard in the area and the mayor starts posting actual descriptions of the agents, the names like we saw over in Nashville, that's why he's being investigated, then he could be investigated and charged. However, where we also get into a gray area, he gave his phone number. So if an illegal immigrant calls him and tells him, hey, I'm an illegal immigrant, they're after me, they're looking for me, and the mayor knows about this, that would be harboring, which is a federal crime. The other issue, though, is morally speaking, the argument from the Trump administration is that right now the threat is up 400% for ICE agents, federal workers, Americans, as far as violent attacks against them. And this is why Tom Homan has an issue with people like Mayor Dante. When you're giving out policies like this or an urgent community alert, you are creating an environment in which ICE could get hurt from citizens or really anybody in the area who doesn't like ICE.
The assaults on ICE officers are high. The doxing of ICE officers are at an all-time high. And people always complain, some of you here say, why are they wearing masks? Because they're trying to protect themselves and their families. They got a dangerous job to do, and they're being doxed every day across this country.
By local officials, by the way, or elected officials.
I've experienced myself 100 times, but I'm willing to take that because of the position I hold. And, we're not running a popularity contest. We're trying to enforce the laws enacted by Congress, doing it in a smart, effective way. So, yeah.
Again, that's a really big point. You have localized elected officials like a mayor defying federal laws in which Congress enacted. Congress, they are the ones who created ICE, and Congress, they are the ones who created the laws for these deportations.
Their assaults are up, but it won't be tolerated. We've already shown you put a hands on an ICE officer, you're going to be prosecuted to the highest extents of the law. So we're not playing with that with any threats against ICE officers. Doxing, we're going to look at doxing. We're going to take action on that also.
That's a big one right now, is the intentional doxing or unintentional doxing. Again, when you look into the specifics of the law or generalities, it's pretty easy to get somebody in trouble as far as these doxing accusations. But as far as Homeland Security wearing masks, Homeland Security actually addressed this as well.
Their faces and posting them online with death threats to their family and themselves. So I'm sorry if people are offended by them wearing masks. But I'm not going to let my officers and agents go out there and put their lives on the line and their family on the line because people don't like what immigration enforcement is. They are wearing those masks because we ran an operation with the Secret Service where we arrested someone that was going online, taking their photos, posting their families, their kids' Instagram, their kids' Facebooks, and targeting them. So let me ask, is that the issue here, that we're just upset about the masks? Or is anyone upset with the fact that ICE officers' families were labeled terrorists?
It's about the identification, sir, because some of these agents don't have labels that say who they're with.
Targeting heads of households.
Okay, so I think it's safe to say this is going to become a common occurrence, where you have elected officials giving out the information of ICE agents, either super general or super detailed, like we saw over in Nashville, giving out the names of ICE agents. But again, what this mayor did was not necessarily illegal yet. Where it can become illegal, like I said, if he knows there are illegal immigrants in the area and he's asked, do you know where they are? And he says no, that is a federal crime. So I will keep some tabs on this case, but this is happening throughout the United States. ICE is starting to go into communities who are not used to ICE being around, and I'm sure it's safe to say that even some community members didn't even know that there were that many illegal immigrants in their area to begin with. So thank you guys so much for being here. God bless, and we'll see you all later.